Good morning, folks. Welcome to Tampa, Florida. Tropical Storm Fred has just blown through, and there's nothing that will revitalize the atmosphere than a big hurricane or tropical storm. So, a gorgeous day here in Florida, and we are heading up to the bird's nest. We are in Delta Airlines livery. Delta is, of course, the largest airline in the world, and we're heading to their world headquarters in Atlanta, which is also Delta's largest hub. So Tampa to Atlanta. And before I start, I must say that I am as guilty as anyone of calling this not the city of Tampa, but Tampa Bay. I enjoy NFL football here in the United States, and the local football team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, named after the pirate tradition of Florida. Anyway, but so many people mistakenly call Tampa, they call it Tampa Bay because of the football team, and probably other reasons as well. But Tampa Bay is the body of water, and if there's any saving grace, if there's any reason why we might get away with that, is because in the NFL there's another Bay team, the Green Bay Packers, the storied team. Coach Lombardi, namesake of the Lombardi Trophy, was from Green Bay, and the city of Green Bay is actually named Green Bay. So they have Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, and we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in Tampa, Florida. Anyway, we're at Concourse Echo. I think we're at gate 64. We're at gate 64 on the Echo Concourse. You can see the trams, the light rail trains that shuttle to and from the concourse from the main terminal building. You can see that Southwest has a large presence. American Airlines has a little bit of a presence. Of course, American's headquarters is in Miami, so they certainly do service Tampa Bay, just on the other side of the peninsula. Actually, yeah, that's correct. Well, Miami's on the southeast side, and Tampa is on the Gulf side, the west side. Some Spirit Airline aircraft out there, some JetBlue. Good representation of North American liveries. Let's do a pre-flight walk-around. We want to make sure that not only the crew is capable of the flight, but we certainly want to check out the machine. And if nothing else, we'll enjoy the iconic lines of Bill Boeing's legacy, the storied Boeing 737. This particular model is the 800 Whiskey. Looking for leaks, puddles. The main thing we're looking for is symmetry. You want to come out to the airplane and you basically want to see that the left side looks exactly like the right side. You don't want any missing parts, broken parts. You don't want it to lean one way or the other. Jet bridge is attached. I see our first officer is already aboard. I bet the cabin crew is aboard as well. Let's get aboard. Good morning, Christy. She's not gonna say anything to me today, at least not yet. It's cold and dark. Let's change that. We do have shore power available, so we'll use it. Battery on. Ground power on. Coming through the bus transfer unit. Position light to steady. Test the attend button. Fasten seatbelt sign on. Chimes on. Arm the emergency exterior lights. Equipment cooling is to normal. Kick up the panel lights and the circuit breaker lights. I don't want to turn on the wipers. Turn the dome light on. And I'm sure Christy checked this when she first boarded. But just to make sure, let's look and see that the parking brake is set, the engine's thrust levers are in idle cutoff, the fuel is in cutoff, the landing gear handle is down, we've got 3 greens on the gear, the radar is turned off, some of those really basic things. Also, before we sit down, we might do what's called a rainbow check. A rainbow check is a check that's done behind the crew seats. It starts on the floor at one side of the cabin, and what you do is you work your eyes in a rainbow motion behind the crew seats. And what you're looking for here, you want to make sure all these circuit breakers are in. You don't see any pop circuit breakers. You want to look at that fire extinguisher and make sure it's serviceable in the green. Check for any spare bulbs in the storage. Look for the emergency escape rope, make sure that's available. Look for the crash axe, the first aid kit, the manuals, the Boeing operating manuals. Maybe you've got an airworthiness certificate back here. Maybe you've got some manifest papers for cargo that's aboard. All sorts of things could be back here. You certainly have the minimum equipment list, a list of things that can be broken or missing, and will tell you whether the aircraft can still fly. So work your eyes from the bottom of the floor around in the motion of a rainbow and back to the other bottom of the floor. And there's one more thing you can check while you're back here. You can look, there's a little door behind the radio stack. Let's see if I can get to it. And you pop this door open, and you can check the gravity-activated emergency landing gear deploy valves. Pull these valves and pop. Gravity will help extend your landing gear in an emergency. And they're right there. So that is the rainbow check. Now that we've done that, our first officer has taken her seat. Get back to the overhead. Fuel pumps are off. We probably won't be using the center fuel pumps. I don't believe there's fuel in there. Cross feed is not engaged. Fuel temperature is 21 degrees. That's fine. Control panel and display sources for the control panel is set to auto and normal. Navigation is to normal. Yaw damper switch can be worried about after we've turned on the APU. Flight control, spoiler, alternate flaps switches are guarded. Standby hydraulics, no indication. We'll do a light test on the leading edge flaps and slats. Light test is fine. We'll check out the emergency locator transmitter. It is armed and guarded. We'll align the IRS, the inertia reference system on the left, align, and then nav. On the right, align, and then nav. We can spin this lower dial, and that will tell us how long we have to wait in the align process. 6 minutes. 6 minutes to align. Service interphone is off. We can turn on the dome light. Crew oxygen is showing 1200 psi. That's fine. Passenger oxygen is in the normal position and guarded. Number 3 radio is in the public address. The microphone is in the public address situation location. I want these speakers to play and to be able to let us hear nav 1 and the marker beacon. Flight recorder goes off with the switch and it's in the normal position and guarded, so that's okay. Mach airspeed warning test. This might be a little difficult to hear. That test is okay. We'll come back for the stall warning test. That one needs a little time to get its act together. Come down here to the electrical monitoring panel. We are on shore power. 115 volts AC, 29 volts DC. I'm going to move this into the APU position so we can check it once we have the generator on. Standby power switches are guarded. Bus transfer, don't have to worry about that yet. I'm not going to play around with the windshield wipers. Light switches are fine. Cabin pressure. We are landing altitude in Atlanta. I believe the altitude is 1047 MSL. So the next increment here would be 1050, which would be the closest to Atlanta's altitude. Flight level today is 32,000 feet. The pressurization panel is in the automatic mode. There is no differential right now because we're on the ground and the door's open. APU bleed, we are not in dual bleed. Packs are turned off. Recirculating fans are in auto. The cabin temperature dials are in auto. And once we get the cabin temperature on, we can check out some of these air temperatures. Right now we're sitting at 23 degrees centigrade. That's fine. Hydraulic system has not yet been actuated. We don't want to do that for safety reasons. We don't want ground personnel under the aircraft and have flight surfaces move and possibly injure them. Same reason we don't turn the heat on here at the pedostatic heat. Those hot surfaces could injure ground personnel. We will turn on, however, the windscreen heat. We can do that. And that takes care of our overhead. Let's get down to our flight management system, and the access to that is through the trusty flight management computer. Data link. We'll check out the company menu. I don't think most of this is modeled. No, most of this is not modeled, but it is available in the near future. Maybe we'll get some of these functions. I know some of it is modeled. Flight log. You know, log your time in, your time out. Fuel on board for in and out. Weather requests. I don't understand that fully. It's an hourly request. Maybe we get a request on Atlanta every hour. That would be nice. Go to our flight management computer. We are in a Boeing 737-800 Whiskey model. Our engines are rated at 26,000 pounds of thrust. Our air-act cycle is current. Let's go to the next page. Not much to look at here. Go to our position initialization page. Our reference airport is Kilo TPA Tango Papa Alpha. We are at gate Echo 64. This is our last position, and this is the airport's reference location. Let's go to the next page. We have two onboard GPS receivers. They're both showing the same location. That bodes well for both of them. They check against each other. We'll grab one of those coordinates, we'll put it right here, and we'll bounce that off of the last location. Now you can see the last location is slightly different. So maybe this aircraft was at a different gate, or maybe it was towed over from the maintenance hangar. We don't know, but we do know that we have a good starting point for our IRS initialization. Routing. Our route takes us from Tampa to Atlanta. We are Delta Airlines, flight number 43. Oops. Tried to put that in the wrong field. There we go. We do have a company route on in the aircraft. Let's activate that. Go to our performance initialization. Our gross weight and our center of gravity can populate over the data link. 410 is our computed altitude, but actually our flight plan that we have not yet filed yet, but we're going to file here pretty soon, has us at, I'm sorry, 320. 320 is our cruise altitude. And let's take a look at those winds aloft. Flight level 320, top of climb winds are 020 at 18. So that's a wind from the northeast at 18. ISA deviation is a positive 14 degrees. 020 at 18, positive 14. Cost index today. Oh goodness, why did I get rid of that so quickly? I did not mean to get rid of that. That cost index figure on the tip of my tongue. Should be right in here. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. I will use my trusty 85. Reserves are 2.2. That's a company policy. Oh, insufficient fuel. You know why that is? How silly of me. This is so silly of me. Okay, what we need to do is to load the aircraft. Okay, so let's go up here to flight configuration. Customize. I should have done this right away. we have a fuel load. Block fuel is at 7426. So we want to move the internal fuel until it reads 7426. So there's 7460, 7423. That's pretty good. That'll be fine. 7423. It's only 3 gallons short, or 3 kilos short of the fuel that we planned. So that's left and right wing tanks are almost full, and there's nothing in the center tank. And now we don't have a way of entering in the zero fuel weight here, but what we can do is enter our ramp weight. So our ramp weight is 67,887. So that's the weight of the fuel and the payload. So the way we're going to get to 67,887 is to increase our payload weight until we're at 67. What was that figure? 67,887. And here we are at 67,769. That's less than 100 Ks off. So that's what we'll use. 67,769. Yeah, that's at less than 100 Ks off. So that's what we'll use. We have slightly less, just a little twinge less than we planned on as far as weight. We also have a little twinge less of what we planned on as far as fuel. Cruise, in normal cruise, we have 2 hours and 2 minutes. That will make us legal, and we can say done and apply changes. And we no longer have insufficient fuel. Okay. Should have done that earlier. N1 limit. We have nice long runways here in Tampa, so let's check the outside air temperature. Whoa, let's get that camera back facing forward. Outside air temperature is 27 degrees. That is correct. We'll do a D-rated thrust, climb to profile, flap setting of 10. Center of gravity can be calculated 3.75 on the trim. Can't get that. Oh, there it goes. 3.75. That's about it right there. Might have to play around with that a little later on. And we'll verify the V speeds. V1, V rotate, V2. Great. Let's go to our legs page. There's not much in our flight plan here, is there? Cam, Joe, Larry, and Lars. So the company is really skimping as far as giving us a route. We better add to that route by having a departure procedure and an arrival procedure. So we are departing Tampa, the Bay PO9 departure off of runway 19 right. Looks like so far this morning. We'll verify that when we get the ATIS. But so far we're on 19 right. And we'll execute that. And we'll go to an arrival. Coming into Atlanta using the Jedi 2. You know, I don't know what the association is. Notice Hobbit, Gandorf. I don't know what the association is between Atlanta and science fiction. You don't see this in Europe. I'm sorry, you Europeans. You're just not imaginative with your procedures and your waypoints. In the U.S., If you're near a city that has a certain flavor to it, you'll often find that flavor written in the procedures and in the waypoints. So Jedi is our procedure, and for right now it looks like we're coming into runway 27 right. That can of course change as well. Matter of fact, the landing runway is the most susceptible to change. And we want to transition at Lars. Lars is the last waypoint on our procedure. So we'll execute that. Let's take a look at our legs page. Okay, right away I don't like that vector, so I'm going to get rid of the vector. A vector is a... I'll show you what a vector is. Let's go back out to here. A vector is a line to infinity. Okay, let's go to the plan mode. And we'll zoom out a bit. And when you look at a vector, so here we are taking off from Tampa, and we're supposed to be heading north, but there's nothing there. But there's this line to infinity, and the computer doesn't know where the air traffic controller is going to vector you, so it starts you out on runway heading and just gives a line to infinity. Well, we certainly know we're not going to be flying infinity, so I like to, for the planning purposes, get rid of that vector. So I take Finky, the waypoint just after the vector, put it in the scratch pad, and right there in the vector spot, and it's gone. Next page, there's another vector right between the procedure and the, I believe that's the end of the routing. Is that Puba? Puba might be the end of the departure procedure, but in any case, I'm going to get rid of that vector. And execute. Let's take a look at this. So we'll step through the waypoints, get us to Tampa to begin with. Okay, there's Tampa. North to Finky, Beipu, Kamjo, Larry, Lars. Now, Lars is the beginning of our arrival procedure. Wookiee, Jedi. See these names? I love these names. And a nice, clean arrival into Atlanta. That will be fine. Get out of the plan mode here. Turn the flight directors on. Turn the brakes to rejected takeoff, and I want to go all the way over here and tell the gate agents that they can start loading folks aboard. Probably hear some rumbling and bumbling in the back. At V2 speed is 129. I want to put that here. Our takeoff runway for right now is 19 right. So we'll crank around to 190. And we don't have a initial altitude yet because we have not yet made contact with air traffic control. Let's do that. Let's contact air traffic control. They're good people. By that I mean they have jobs. No, I'm kidding.
Tampa INTL information uniform. 1000 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility 10. Sky clear, temperature 27, dew point 24. Altimeter 3001. Arriving runways 01 left, 01 right, departing runways 01 left, 01 right. Advise on initial contact you have uniform.
Guys, the wheel's on board.
3004 is what he said? ATIS had the runways as 01.
Tampa INTL information uniform. 1000 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility 10. Sky clear, temperature 27, dew point 24. Altimeter 3001. Arriving runways 01 left, 01 right, departing runways 01 left, 01 right. Advise on initial contact you have uniform.
He had the runways as 01 left and right. You know, they may need to update that ATIS. The winds are calm. I won't take those runways as a given until we get our clearance. So let's get our clearance. Tampa clearance delivery. Delta 4 tree, ready to copy. Tampa clearance delivery. Delta 4 tree, ready to copy.
Aircraft calling clearance delivery, say again with your call sign.
Tampa clearance delivery. Delta 4 tree, ready to copy. Tampa clearance delivery. Delta 4 tree, ready to copy. Tampa clearance delivery. Delta 4 tree, ready to copy.
Delta 43 is cleared to Kilo Alpha Tango Lima. Fly the Bapo 9 departure, then as filed. Expect departure runway 19 right. Climb to 4,000 feet via the departure. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 118.15. Squawk 6151.
Delta 43 is cleared to Kilo Alpha Tango Lima, fly the Bapo 9 departure, then as filed. Climb to 4,000 feet via the departure. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 118.15. Squawk 6151.
Delta 43 read back correct. QNH is 1017, contact ground on 121.35 when ready for pushback. Enjoy your morning.
QNH is 1017, ground on 121.35 Delta 43.
I'm going to put the transponder into TA mode, or traffic advisory mode. We'll hold off on the traffic advisory and resolution mode until we're pushed away from the gate. Here's a word of warning. You might do what I just did and tune in the frequency from the left to the right, and that's very common. I would admonish you to get in the habit of tuning the last 2 digits first and then tune the first 2 digits. And here's the reason. If you are tuned to 1200 or 7000 or one of the VFR transponder codes, your end 2 digits could be 00. And if you tune your first digits first, you could possibly tune through 7500, 7600, and 7700, which are the emergency transponder codes. 7500 is the hijack code, 7600 is the loss of communication code, and 7700 is the general emergency code. So if your last 2 digits are 00 and you're fiddling around with these dials, you could pass through those emergency codes and set off the light in the air traffic controller screen. So to avoid that, if you tune in the last 2 digits, as long as it's not 00, then you'll never accidentally pass through those emergency transponder codes. Does that make sense? Anyway, I think it's good advice. Take it for what it's worth. Microphone on the pilot flying side is set up. The number 1 microphone. Number 2 microphone can be put on the first officer side. We have the VHF 1 and VHF 2 radios. We're listening to both of them, but we're only transmitting each of us on our own microphone. And I'm going to listen to the Nav 1 receiver. I'm going to listen to the marker beacon on both sides. Actually, for right now, I'm going to turn off Nav 1 because I don't want to hear it right now. But while we're flying, I'll turn that back on. I do like to hear those marker beacons. Let's go back upstairs and get that stall warning test that we were unable to get earlier. Way back in the back. These should be okay now. Great. That works out fine. We have a myriad of other tests to perform. First, let's check the oxygen on the captain's side. Kind of hard to listen to. Tested at 100%. We're going to test the light bulbs for the Autopilot Disengage function on the captain's side. We'll do it on the first officer's side. Kind of touchy. Let's do an Enunciator light test. Every light in the house. Looking for bulbs and elements, diodes, LED segments that are not illuminated. Every bulb and element should be illuminated. That seems to be fine. We'll do a recall test by touching... Oops, can turn that off. We'll do a recall test by touching the master caution. Oh. We reset. We reset the master caution. Let's do a systems test.
Flight slow. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up. Obstacle. Obstacle. Pull up. Airspeed low.
And at this point, turn up some of these interior lights. Even in the daytime, I like to crank up the lights. And make sure the altimeter setting is in our standby attitude indicator. 3001. Nice high pressure day. RTO is on. Flight directors are on. MCP panel has been set up. And Christy, I believe it's time for you and I to run a checklist. I want to move this whole thing.
Pre-flight checklist. Voice recorder.
Voice recorder has been tested and it is on.
Oxygen.
Oxygen tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation and display switches.
Navigation display switches are heading 212.
Normal. Auto.
Oh, that's not what you wanted. Normal and auto.
Window heat.
I thought you wanted real navigation. Window heat is on.
On. Pressurization mode selector.
Pressurization mode selector is auto.
Auto. Flight instruments.
Flight instruments. Here's kind of what you wanted. Current heading is 212. We're looking at 40 feet on the altimeter, and we are at 3001 on the inches of mercury.
Heading 211. Altitude 35. Altimeter 3001. Parking brake.
Parking brake is set.
Engine start levers.
Engine start levers are in the cutoff position.
Pre-flight checklist completed.
Wonderful. Let's fire up the APU. Going to turn on the anti-collision light. I'm going to make sure that the left-hand fuel pump is on.
Flight attendants, prepare your doors for departure, please. Cross-check on all calls.
Press and hold down the APU switch until the exhaust gas temperature gauge starts to read a little bit of heat. Get that little
Good
turbine
evening, ladies
going.
and gentlemen. On behalf of Delta Sky Team and our global partners, welcome on board your Delta flight. As you're making your way to your seat, we kindly ask that you please step into your row and out of the aisle as quickly as possible.
Got everyone strapped
Allow
in.
those
Give us a
passengers
ring if
behind
you
you
need
to make
anything.
their way to their seat as well. If you're traveling with a larger rollerboard, please place it in the overhead bins, either wheels or handles.
They just closed the cabin door. We can kind of eavesdrop if you'd like to.
Go ahead and utilize the next available space. If you brought in a second item with you, such as a briefcase, tote bag, laptop bag, backpack, you can go ahead and utilize that space under the seat in front of you, so that we can utilize that overhead bin space for your larger bag without having to check them plain sight to your final destination. Feel free to utilize your mobile phones, tablets, and e-readers while we're here at the gate. However, once we close our board...
Exhaust gas temperature gauge is falling into operational range. When it does, we'll get an autopilot available, APU available light. There it is. We'll transfer power onto the bus from the APU. We can go off of ground power. And let's get that yaw damper switch toggled over. I'm going to put the APU bleed. This is called dual bleed, and you can see the duct pressure is rising. We're going to need that duct pressure for engine start. And I think we are ready for another checklist. Are you ready for the... what checklist? What's it called? I know there's a name of this checklist. Before start checklist.
Before start checklist.
That's what it's called.
Papers.
Papers are on board.
Flight deck door.
Flight deck door is closed and locked. She's not very trusting. She's going to check everything.
Closed and locked.
If I tell her the sky is blue, she'll say the sky is green.
Fuel.
Fuel is 16,380. Oh, she's going to turn on the pumps.
Pumps on. Passenger signs.
Passenger signs are on.
On. Window.
Windows are closed and locked.
Locked. MCP.
MCP, we're looking at 129 on the V2, heading of 190, runway heading, initial climb altitude of 4,000 feet.
Speed 129. Heading 190. Altitude 4,000. Takeoff speeds.
Takeoff speeds are 118 on the V1, 118 on the V rotate, and 129 on the V2.
Attention, please begin monitors and flight attendants in the aisles, even if you are a frequent flyer. Thank you so much.
V1 118. V rotate 118. V2 129.
Okay, be sure all carry-on items are securely stowed in an overhead bin. And place smaller items.
People in the back are getting their
CDU
safety
pre-flight.
briefing. CDU pre-flight is completed.
Completed. Rudder and aileron trim.
Rudder and aileron trim is free and 0.
Taxi and takeoff briefing.
Taxi and takeoff briefing is not yet completed, but we'll do them right away. Let's do that. While we're thinking about it, I don't believe in missing something because I didn't come back to it. So let's do a taxi and takeoff briefing. We are at Echo 64. Our takeoff runway is 19 right, which is conveniently right behind us. So we're going to get a pushback, tail left pushback, and we're going to taxi down whiskey, 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 whiskey to the end of whiskey, and we'll be on 19 right. Tail left, right turn, whiskey to 19 right. That is our taxi briefing. Now, departure briefing. Right, climb on a heading of 187, which is almost due south, to 540, then heading 203 are assigned by ATC. So due south to 540 feet, above 540 feet, and then assigned by ATC.
Life vests are located under your seats in the economy cabin. If you're seated in the first class or business class cabin, life vests are either in a compartment beneath or adjacent to your seat. To use, remove the vest from its container by pulling on the tab.
They're still getting their safety briefing, and we have completed our taxi and takeoff briefing.
Anti-collision light.
Anti-collision light is on.
On. Before start checklist completed.
Great.
Activate automatically in the water. If necessary, we'll distribute
Let's pre-plan our pushback. Tail left for the pushback. And then a right turn once we've started taxiing.
All right, Captain, got the directions. Let me know through the menu when you're ready.
Information card, which is in your seat pocket.
On behalf of everyone at Delta Airlines, we want to thank you for paying attention.
Please relax and enjoy your flight.
Let's say hi to the folks.
Folks from the cockpit, I'd like to welcome you on board. We're ready up front. Everybody's closed up outside. We're just waiting to get some of our performance numbers and the clearance from air traffic control, and we should be underway. It's our pleasure having you on board with us today. Sit back, relax, enjoy the flight. Should be underway here shortly. Thanks for flying with Delta today.
I'm going to toggle the brakes, and hopefully that will disengage the jet bridge. Up, jet bridge is disengaged. Actually, I think the cabin crew, the gate agents, disengaged it before. When they finished their boarding, they disengaged it without my help. I don't have. It's good to know that I don't have to do every blessed thing around here. Okay, let's get a pushback clearance. Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, request pushback and engine start. Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, ready for pushback and engine start.
Delta 4-3, you were garbled. Please say again.
Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, ready for pushback and engine start. Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, request pushback and engine start.
Delta 4-3, pushback and engine start approved.
Pushback and engine start approved. Delta 4-3.
Great news, Captain. Your tow's coming.
Great news, Captain. My tow is coming. Oh my goodness, look at that. We don't have a cabin door closed. Well, how the heck did that happen? They pulled the jet bridge away, but then left the cabin door open. I'm not sure I know how to close that cabin. I know how to close that cabin door. Just have to think about it a little bit. Oh. Okay, let's see. Ground services, doors.
Alright, looks like the doors and hatches are closed and we're ready to connect.
I like that little change of engine sound. Now you can see the nose of the aircraft rising off the ground, and you heard the engine go into a bit of high idle when it was asked to do a little bit more. That's wonderful.
Welcome aboard, Captain. Toes connected, bypass pins inserted. Go ahead and kill the parking brake when you're ready to go. Here comes the pushback. Light them up.
Looks like we have dual bleed, we have duct pressure. Let's make sure we're on number 2 engine. We'll turn that over to ground. Start valve open is now illuminated. We're building into. N2's at 25%. We'll introduce some fuel. Waiting for the low oil pressure light to extinguish. And now we're waiting for the start valve open to extinguish and our engine selector to pop from the ground into the off position. toggle over to engine number 1. Move that over to ground. And again, monitor the N2. Meanwhile, engine number 2 is stabilizing. Oops, didn't mean to do that. There, we have some fuel. Let's go to TARA on the transponder. Turn on the probe heat. Get the hydraulic system actuated. Start valve has popped on the number 1. We're stabilizing. Let's transfer power, electrical power onto the engines. Number 1 and number 2. We can turn off the APU. Well, at nighttime, I wouldn't turn on the taxi lights with the driver here, but we'll turn the logo light on. Turn the wing lights on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking off in just a few minutes. Flight attendants, please start a cabin for departure.
I'll hold off
The
on
cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
I'll hold off on the taxi and runway lights until we're disconnected.
Just about done here. Go ahead and set your parking brake.
Parking brake is on.
And we're disconnecting the tow. Give me just a moment.
Down elevator.
And we're disconnected. Signal and pin on the left. Take it easy and have a safe flight.
Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, request taxi, runway 9 left. Delta ground.
Aircraft calling ground, say again with your call sign.
Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, ready for taxi, runway 9 left. Tampa ground, Delta 4 tree, request taxi, runway 9 left.
Delta 43 taxi to runway 19 right via taxiways Alpha 5, Whiskey, hold short runway 19 right.
Taxi to runway 19 right via taxiways Alpha 5, Whiskey, hold short runway 19 right Delta 43.
Now that's, I thought we were taking off from 19 left. I better look at that. I better look at that. One 9 right. Yeah, okay, we were cleared for 19 right. Well, good. First of all, I like it because it's closer. Second of all, I like it because it's a lot longer. And third, I like it because we can continue on our established taxi briefing that we gave before. So basically, I mentioned right turn. It's going to be a very shallow right turn. Down Whiskey to the end of 19 right. We have our taxi clearance. Let's do a flight control check. This is going to be kind of hard to see. Elevator down. Neutral. Elevator up. Neutral. Right aileron. Neutral. Left aileron. Neutral. Right rudder. Neutral. Left rudder. Neutral. And I always like to add in a spoiler check just to spoil things. And a spoiler is fine. If I can get it back into place. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Generators.
Generators are on the engines.
On. Probe heat.
Probe heat is on.
On. Anti-ice.
Anti-ice is off.
Wing anti-ice off. Engine anti-ice off. Isolation valve.
Isolation valve is... we need to turn it on. On. And,
auto.
Yeah, auto. And also get rid of the dual lead as well.
Engine start switches.
We'll turn the packs. Recirculating fans on. Packs on. Engine start switch. She's moving the engine start switches to continuous.
Continuous. Recall.
Recall has been checked.
Checked. Auto brake.
Auto brake is RTO. Rejected takeoff.
Rejected takeoff. Engine start levers.
Engine start levers are idle detent.
Flight control.
Flight controls have been checked.
Checked. Flaps.
Flaps need to be set to flap 10. Would you do that? Well, I'll do it. Okay, is that 10 right in here? Let's look. Make sure it's at 10. That might be 5. It's kind of hard for me to see. Flaps are in transit. See, I don't trust to let her do everything because some things she expects me to do, and if I don't do them, the checklist will end suddenly. Some things she'll do on her own, and then other things she'll expect me to do, and if I don't do them, well, I'll have to start the checklist over again. just kind of a matter of getting
Flaps
used
10
to her.
set.
Flaps 10 set. Okay. They're in the detent.
Flaps 10 set. Green light. Detent. Ground equipment.
Ground equipment is removed and clear.
Clear. Before taxi checklist completed.
Great. Let's do a takeoff checklist. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist.
Meanwhile, while you're doing that, I'm in a taxi.
Flaps.
Flaps 10, set, brake, off. Just a little bit of thrust. And then test the brakes. Brakes are okay.
Taxi lights on.
Taxi lights, you can turn those on.
Flaps 10 set. Green light. Detent. Stabilizer trim.
Stabilizer trim is 3.75.
Horizontal stabilizer trimmer not set for takeoff.
Oh, goodness. I knew you were going to bust my chops. It should be at 3.75, and you are so picky about this.
Is not set for takeoff position.
Yeah. 3.75.
Before takeoff checklist is not completed.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get it to how you like it. My whole job is to make sure you enjoy your job. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist.
Okay.
Flaps.
Flaps are 10. Set. D10. Green light.
Flaps 10 set. Green light. Detent. Stabilizer trim.
Stabilizer trim is at 3.75 and set.
37 units set.
Oh, good. Oh, she accepted it. We can continue our taxi.
Transponder.
Transponder is set and
TARA set.
TARA, very good.
Before takeoff checklist completed.
Wonderful. Let's get out to the runway before we change our mind.
Reverse unlocked.
I'm using this outer, I don't know if this is whiskey or not. We're supposed to be on whiskey. I'm using this outer taxiway because just like on, you folks who might have joined me on my German flight, my last flight from Stuttgart to Frankfurt, you may have noticed that I didn't have a lot of rudder authority when taxiing. And I'm afraid I still don't. So I'm using this outer taxiway, I hope it's whiskey, so that I have a more forgiving experience getting to the runway. You might have noticed that I did not turn on the auto throttle. I know some people do. I've been of the belief if the auto throttle fails, it could do very bad things. So I don't like to turn on the auto throttle until we're ready for takeoff. I don't seem to have a lot of braking authority, so I put on the parking brakes here and I'll release them now. Just wanted to slow down a little. I know I probably have hot brakes now. There's not much in life more wasteful than runway behind you. So I
Delta
always...
43 contact tower on 119.05. Enjoy your morning.
I always like
Tower
to taxi...
on 119.05 Delta 43.
I always like to taxi to the furthest, most rear part of the runway as possible. And if I have a displaced threshold, I'll certainly use that. Now, a displaced threshold is an area before the runway. It can be used for taxi and takeoff, but it can't be used for landing. Okay, we've been cleared for takeoff. Ah, see my rudder authority is so poor. Let's go to Christmas tree mode. Every light. Let's start the clock. Actually, we have not been cleared for takeoff, but we have been asked to transfer to the tower. So we're going to check for traffic on final, check for obstructions on the runway, and then we're going to call the tower, Tampa Tower, Delta 43, ready for departure, runway 19 right. Oh, ready, runway 9 right. Tampa Tower, Delta 43, ready for departure, runway 9 right. Tampa Tower, Delta 43, ready for departure, runway 9 right. Tampa Tower, Delta 43, request departure, runway 9 right.
Delta 43 contact clearance delivery on 133.6 with this request.
I don't want clearance
Clearance delivery on 133.6 Delta 43.
Tampa Tower, Delta 43, ready for departure, runway 9 right. Tampa Tower, Delta 43, request departure, runway 9 right. Is it 19 right? Yes, it's 19. We're facing south. Oh my silly me! It's been 19 right this whole time. Let's try it without the assistance one more time. Tampa Tower, Delta 43, request departure, runway 19 right. Okay, well, this is the helper.
Delta 43 request departure runway 19 right.
Delta 43 departure on runway 19 right is approved.
That's hardly a takeoff clearance. That's really not the good phraseology for a takeoff clearance, but I'll take it. Okay. Now, unlike the Airbus, on the Boeing, you don't need to go into a special flex mode for takeoff. We set up the flight management computer for a D-rated takeoff, and the flight management computer knows that. So, and we're on auto throttle. Oh, arm the auto throttle, by the way. Arm the auto throttle. So, when we go to Toga, takeoff go-around mode, the auto throttle will only give us the thrust that we asked for through the flight management system. Again, I'm having taxi issues. Looks like that Southwest aircraft just cleared the runway. Looked like he came in from the other direction. Okay, well, we're close enough to straight on that I'm going to start the Toga.
Takeoff thrust set. knots.
80 knots.
Throttle hold.
Rotate. Okay, we're in ground effect. Pitching up to 15 degrees.
Positive rate.
Positive rate.
Positive rate. Gear up. Gear off. Stay in ground. Stay low until we get those flaps up. Flaps to 5. Flaps to 2. Flaps up.
400.
Oops.
Approaching transition. Transition level.
Don't think. Don't think.
Flaps up set.
Glide slow. Glide slow.
Is that Alligator Alley and the Evergreen? I'm not real sure. There's no, that's in South Florida. South Florida's got a freeway that connects the east and west side of the peninsula.
1,000.
Well, I'm majorly busting our speed limit because I'm not able to. There's Auto. Okay, now we're on the autopilot. And,
to level off.
Delta 43 contact clearance delivery on 133.6.
Contact clearance delivery on 133.6 Delta 43.
not contacting clearance delivery. You're not going to make... I hope he's not going to make me get my clearance again. Tampa departure. Delta 43 is with you, climbing 4,000 feet. Oh, well, I don't like doing this. Tampa clearance delivery, ready to copy. Tampa clearance delivery, Delta 43, ready to copy. I'm afraid we might have to file our flight plan again. Tampa 43, Delta... Tampa clearance delivery, Delta 43, ready to copy. Tampa clearance delivery, Delta 43, ready to copy.
Delta 43 ready to copy.
Delta 43 is cleared to Kilo Alpha Tango Lima as filed. Climb to 1,000 feet via the departure. Expect higher clearances in 7 minutes. Squawk 6151.
Delta 43 is cleared to Kilo Alpha Tango Lima as filed. Climb to 1,000 feet via the departure. Expect higher clearances in 7 minutes. Squawk 6151.
We're at the 250 knot speed limit. We should be maintaining the 250 knot speed limit. Looks like we're busting it a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it. We're close. 3 is with you, 1,000 feet. Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 320.
Delta 43 request climb to flight level 240.
Delta 43 climb and maintain flight level 240.
Climb and maintain flight level 240 Delta 43.
My main goal was to establish that communication. I didn't think the center knew we were here. But I'm glad that he approved us to the new altitude. Monitor the cabin pressure. Is this cabin altitude telling me correct? We're at 1,500. And slowly
approaching transition.
Slowly increasing. That's what it looks like to me. 1,500 and slowly increasing. I'm going to move the position lights to strobe.
Stabilized. Transition altitude.
Okay, transition altitude. Let's go on to standard pressure. She's done it for me. She's turned off all the lights for me. She's also turned off the continuous firing on the engine selectors. Packs are normal. I isolation valve is on. Brakes are reset, are off. Yeah, she's done a lot of the work here. Okay, that's good. Now the big question is, when we get to flight level 240, will we get a higher altitude from the controller? And that will really tell me that we're back online with our air traffic control program. We were having a problem from the time we got a very poor, we didn't get our normal takeoff clearance. Usually they'll say cleared for takeoff, winds are whatever. But the way they phrased it, remember what they phrased it? They said takeoff request approved. That's very poor phraseology.
1,000 to level off.
1,000 to go.
And we didn't have a request for an initial contact when we, as we were in the climb. I had to establish that. And I actually, to establish that, you remember, I actually had to refile. We're not going to have a lot of time until top of descent. So let's brief the arrival. Here we are at 240 and we have not been given 320. I'll request it. Get at it. Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 320.
Aircraft calling center, say again with your call sign.
Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 320. Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 320. Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 320. How to increase it using this interface. Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 340. Delta 43, Delta Jacksonville Center, Delta 43, request flight level 320. You can tell I'm getting just a little frustrated with the air traffic control program. I really hate not to use it. It is such a wonderful, when it's working, which it works most all the time. When it's working, it's wonderful. We're using the Jedi 2 arrival. Starting at Lars. And we're going to be looking at runway 7. hit some major turbulence? Yeah, looks like we hit some major turbulence there, didn't we? Took a bit of a bounce. So, I'm sorry, runway 27 right. So for assigned 27 right, cross Jedi at or above 10,000 feet, cross Daffy at 8,000, cross Puba at 6,000. So it's 10,000, 8,000, 6,000. Lars, Jedi at 8, Puba at 6. And that is the Jedi procedure. And then to 27 right, from the southeast. We'll probably get radar vectors onto our ILS 275, which is almost due west. We have a standard 200-foot decision height and a we have the ILS, we don't have to use these step downs. Looking for our descent gradient. Highest obstacle in the vicinity is at 3,100 feet. MSA. Final approach fix is at Oster at 5.2 DME, and that is our approach procedure and approach briefing. Well, I'm afraid this is going to have to do for top of climb. So I'm going to turn the seatbelt sign off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the seatbelt light's off. You're free to move about. Once you are seated, we recommend you keep your belts fastened. Thank you.
elevation of 1022 feet. Boy, they've got a lot of 27 right is ILS Cat 2. 275 on the course. It's 8,900 foot, 9,000 foot runway. 275, and the altitude is 1022. So what we want to do is to move this switch into the barrel mode. And we want to tune in 1222 for our decision height. It's kind of touchy to do. Okay, decision height is set, 275 on the course. Verify that on the flight management computer. Menu, flight management computer, index, approach. 275 on the course. Radio frequency is 111.3 for the ILS. We'll tune that in. On the other side. Wonderful. If I should just, without air traffic control permission, climb to our, normal radio out procedure. The first thing you would do with the real radio out is to dial 7600 on the transponder. And the way I remember this is a little aid that I use. Remember the spirit of '76 when the Patriots were fighting for their independence, 1 if by land and 2 if by sea, and they were trying to communicate with the lamps in the North Church in Boston. And the way I associate communicate with the number 76 because 76 was the spirit of '76. So 7600 is a loss of communication, and the way I remember 7500 for hijack is, remember in the 1970s they had all those airport movies, Airport 71, Airport 72, and they were hijacked. And so I imagine there was a movie called Airport 75, and that was all about a hijacking, and that's how I remember 76 for communication, 75 for hijacking, and then 77 is the general emergency. So we've lost communication, and the usual procedure is, if you lose communication, you follow your last instruction, or you follow your flight plan. Now our last instruction was flight level 240. So that's what we've been doing. But legally, technically, you know, we are burning a lot of fuel at this altitude. If I wanted to save fuel and also travel a little faster, I could, without too much problem, safely climb to our filed altitude, flight level 320. Because air traffic control, when they see that 7600 block, they're going to look at your flight plan and they're going to clear the skies to allow you to follow your flight plan if you're out of communication. So let's say that's the case. I'm going to turn the seatbelt sign back on, and I'm going to climb to our filed altitude of 3,200 feet. And of course, air traffic control is monitoring us. And in modern aircraft, there's the ACAR system. The ACAR system is a way of communicating with the company through data link, basically typing. So being out of communication, we could relay messages. We could even relay clearances through the company, through the ACAR system. I don't know how to do that on this flight management computer. I'm imagining in the airplanes that are equipped, there's a separate keypad down here somewhere that they would use. We're now looking at a headwind from 340 from almost due north at 23 knots. For this altitude, 23 knots is not a lot of headwind. We have a ground speed of 425, true airspeed of 447. It's slowing down because we're in the climb, but once we're established at the new altitude, you'll notice that the ground speed, the difference between ground speed and true airspeed will be greater at our higher altitude, but the ground speed will also be greater. Imagine the air traffic controllers are giving us a wide berth, clearing out traffic around us. Now, this far away from Atlanta, it might not mean very much, but when we come into approach, we're going to pretty much own the skies. If you ever hear on the radio someone using the call sign life flight, life flight means that they are a medical flight or they're carrying organs or blood or plasma, and air traffic control will clear the skies.
Level off.
1,000 to go.
Here we come up to our top of climb. Back into VNAV mode. And I'll turn off the Seatbelt sign once again. Did we ever do an after takeoff checklist? We might have been negligent about that.
After takeoff checklist. Engine bleeds.
Engine bleeds are on.
On. Packs.
Packs are on.
Auto. Landing gear.
Landing gear is up and off.
Up and off. Flaps.
Flaps are retracted.
Up. No light. Detent. Altimeters.
Altimeters, we are at standard pressure. 2992.
Standard set, cross-checked. After takeoff checklist completed.
down below us. Jacksonville Center, Delta 4 Tree is with you, flight level Tree 20. Jacksonville Center, Delta 4 Tree is with you, flight level Tree 20.
Aircraft calling center, say again with your call sign.
Jacksonville Center, Delta 4 Tree is with you, flight level Tree 20. Jacksonville Center, Delta 4 Tree, flight level Tree 20. like we have a couple of aircraft coming up on the TCAS. At this time, usually air traffic controller would be giving us our expected arrival information, our expected procedure, our expected approach, our expected runway. They might say, expect the, Jedi 2 approach for the ILS runway 27 right in Jacksonville, or in Atlanta, at Atlanta Hartsfield. If I were a diligent pilot, what I could do is turn on the radar, the weather radar, turn on the terrain. Actually, usually what will happen is that I believe the pilot flying will turn on the terrain radar. I don't know if it's modeled. And the pilot not flying will turn on the weather radar. Put on data block, which will tell us our estimated time on arrival to each waypoint, and also any constraints that that waypoint has associated with it. Here we can see some other VORs along our path if we wanted to tune in. We could go to the fix button, and we could type in AMG, Alpha Mike Golf. There's the radio that we're crossing, and that's the distance from the fix, and you can see it's highlighted. Or say we went to VMA. Victor Mike Alpha. Now you can see, now because we're much further away, we're not crossing the radio lines as quickly. We will cross them, but not as quickly. And there's the distance. Have VMA on one page, and you could have AMG on the other page. I guess that's helpful if you wanted to toggle back and forth between the two. And you could have another one, a DBN, on another page. .74 radial and 58. Let's say we're going to land with 40 degrees flaps and our landing speed is 120 knots. We will verify that. And by hitting it twice, not only do we enter it here, but more importantly, we enter the reference here. So when we're landing, we know that landing should be at 40 flaps, or full flaps, and 120 degree airspeed, and we should have 1222 MSL, which will give us 200 feet AGL above ground level for our decision height at the runway. Here's the length of our runway, 11,864. It's a big long runway, both in feet and meters. Great. So usually I'd have the legs on during this portion of flight, and then as we're in the descent or as we're approaching, I change over to that approach page. One of the things I'm going to do in a different video, and I would do it now, but I'm afraid of messing things up. Let's go to plan mode, and we'll look at our arrival. Plan mode, get things out a little bit here. Let's say when we're coming off of Puba and we're on our way to Mercer, I wanted to extend the center line from Mercer. I might try this. Let's just try this, right? I'm going to try this. We go from Puba to Mercer, and then we're on the extended center line. So Puba is heading of 326. And the heading for the runway is 275 at Ooster. Puba 326, Mercer 275. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Mercer, put it in the scratch pad, subtract 180 degrees from 275. Now the easy way to do that, I found, is to subtract 200 and then add 20. So 275 minus 200 is 75, plus 20 is 95. So I'm going to go 095. And I hope I'm doing this right, /05. And what I want to do is put in a new waypoint between Puba and Mercer. Let's see what happens. I might mess this all up. I'm kind of afraid to do it, actually. Okay, that's not it. I don't believe that's it. Okay, let's try that again. Mercer, 275, 200 would be 095. 095 would be 180 degree reciprocal. And I'm going to put 05 for a distance. That's a distance back from Mercer. And now I'm going to put it where Mercer belongs. Okay, I believe that's correct. Let's go next page. So there's a discontinuity now. Let's accept that. And then let's get rid of the discontinuity. Okay, I've done it. Okay. Okay, this is something that will really come in handy. Because if you know any point, you can choose a radial. It doesn't have to be a reciprocal. It can be any radial from that point. So you put in the radial and then you put in a distance. And you can add a waypoint anywhere you want. And that's what we did here today. We added a waypoint. So we have, we go from Puba, now we go to Mercer 1, which is the waypoint we created, and then to Mercer, which was already on the flight plan, and then to Ooster. So all we've done here is give us a longer straight-in approach. And that's probably the most useful purpose you'll have for doing that. But I'm glad that I was able to add that little tutorial onto our flight today. And I think when I post this flight, I'm going to post it as a tutorial. We are now approaching top of descent. You can see top of descent is at 16 miles. I'm going to talk to the folks. Get the seatbelt light turned back on.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. From the cockpit, starting a slow descent at this time. We would like to ask you to return to your seats, fasten up your seatbelts for the duration of the flight. Been a pleasure having you on board with us. Thanks for flying with Delta today. I can fly attendants. Go ahead and prepare the cabin for our arrival, please.
Seatbelt sign back on. Well, because we don't have air traffic control to descend us, instead of stepping down to different altitudes, what I'm going to use is a feature that's built into the Boeing aircraft. I'm going to drop our altitude to let's look at the procedure here. (2,700 feet is glide slope capture. So I'm going to drop our altitude to 2,700 feet, and I'm going to let the aircraft maintain the proper continuous glide or continuous descent to that altitude. In what's called manage or VNAV mode. So we're in VNAV mode. And when we get to top of descent, the airplane will automatically establish a descent to put us at 2,700 feet, and then all we have to monitor is the speed. You would not usually do this. Usually you would follow air traffic control instructions and you would step down with air traffic control. It almost makes you wish that you lost communications more often. I can't hear you. What? No communication. Oh darn. Oh darn. Okay, here we go. Top of descent. Here you can see the magenta diamond is the ideal descent, and the aircraft is going to try to maintain the magenta diamond. And this RNP number and ANP number refer to an RNAV approach. These numbers tell how accurately the computer is monitoring its environment. It's basically it's a health gauge for the IRS system. And if these numbers are small enough or in the tolerance, that tells you that you can fly a very precise RNAV approach. Now, an RNAV approach, as wonderful as it is, will never be a substitute for a precision approach or an ILS approach. So today we're planning an ILS approach. But we are in the descent. We're in a managed descent. And we're going to let the aircraft handle our descent to keep us right on a perfect descent profile. I'm going to check this out, but I believe the aircraft will know when we are approaching 10,000 feet, and it will keep our speed below 250 knots. I believe the aircraft knows that. If we get close and the airplane is not making that happen, then we'll intervene and we'll make that happen. Christy, are you ready for an approach checklist?
Descent checklist. Pressurization.
Oh my goodness. Did we do that? Let's check. I believe we did do that. The first thing we did is put the Atlanta altitude in the pressure panel. But let's just verify that. Atlanta, 1022 is the altitude, and we have 1050. Probably that should be 1,000. That'd be the closest. So I will say that is complete. 1022 is our landing altitude.
Recall.
Recall is checked.
Auto brake.
Auto brake is going to maximum.
Landing data.
Now arm the spoilers. The landing speed is 40 flaps and 120 knots.
The reference 120.
Speed brake is armed.
Minimum sparrow 1,221 set.
Yes. Minimum sparrow is set.
Descent checklist completed.
Oh, that was an easy checklist. I wish they were all that easy. I'm going to call this disaster. It's DTSTR. But I looked at that second character, it looked kind of like a capital I. I said, what if that was disaster instead of ditster?
Approaching transition.
When we go on to, when we leave standard altitude, we're going to need an altimeter setting. And even though we can't talk to air traffic control, we may still be able to tune in the ATIS. Automated Terminal Information System. This is transition
level.
Let's go on to local pressure. I have an Atlanta ATIS. Let's see if it comes up.
Atlanta Speedway information Yankee, 1355 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 10 miles. 800 overcast. Temperature 24, dew point 22. Current QNH is 1017. Arriving and departing runway 24. Atlanta Speedway information Yankee, 1355 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 10 miles. 800 overcast. Temperature 24, dew point 22. Current QNH is 1017. Arriving and departing runway 24. Atlanta Speedway information Yankee, 1355 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 10 miles. 800 overcast. Temperature 24.
He gave it to us in hectopascals and not in inches of mercury, so I don't know if that was very helpful. Let's try that one more time. I'm just gonna, we'll let it be. I'd like to try that. I'd like to try it.
Atlanta Speedway information Yankee, 1355 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 10 miles. 800 overcast. Temperature 24, dew point 22. Current QNH is 1017. Arriving and departing runway 24. Atlanta Speedway information Yankee,
he did give us
1355 Zulu winds are light and variable. Visibility 10 miles.
He gave us the QNH in hectopascals, 1017, but I was able to, you can see by this toggle, I put in 1017 hectopascals, and I can switch it over to inches of mercury, which is 3004. So the pressure is slightly higher here than it was back in Tampa, which is indicative of better weather. Not much. Light variable winds, probably the same. Now that was Atlanta Speedway, which once it's a smaller airport in the Atlanta vicinity. I actually had tuned the Atlanta frequency, but I got the Speedway, which is not Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. It's a smaller airport in the vicinity. But a nearby ATIS is better than no ATIS, right? We're going to be approaching 10,000 feet, which is 250 knot speed limit. It's also our sterile cockpit altitude, and it's also our Christmas tree altitude. Turn on every light in the house. Let the folks on the ground know, hey baby, we're on our way in. Hey grandma, get out the pumpkin pie. We'll be home shortly. You can see we're keeping a really good descent profile in managed descent, or VNAV descent. Descending at a rather shallow 500 feet per minute. And again, the reason why this is shallowing out, you can see where our speed is dropping. The computer knows
to level off.
Why are we leveling? We shouldn't level off here, should we? I don't think we should be leveling off. But the computer knows we have a 250 knot speed limit. So once we're at that speed limit, I think our descent rate is going to increase again. sometimes might question some of the crazy thrust settings that the vertical navigation is giving the auto throttle, but you should really measure the effectiveness of the auto throttle and the VNAV by the output. And the output here is a 250 knot speed limit, maintaining a comfortable descent for our passengers. And that's exactly what the computer seems to be doing. We're approaching 10,000 feet. Let's go into Christmas tree mode. Actually, let's see if Christy does it. Turn the engine start levers to continuous fire and turn the landing lights and taxi lights on. I bet Christy will do it for us if we just let ourselves get down to 10,000 feet. She is a well-trained first officer. Nipping at my heels for captaincy. Oh, look at that. That's exactly what she did. She turned on the landing lights. She didn't move the engine start switches yet, but I know she will. Maybe not quite yet. Maybe we'll have to get down to our land. Maybe that might be one of her landing checklist items. Double ding the cabin. Let them know that we're below 10,000 feet.
To level off.
There she goes on the continuous fire switches. Not much of a concern. Outside temperature is 17 degrees Celsius. I don't know what the conversion on that is, but that's not monstrously cold. I really wish I had a better handle on what conversions were. I think 20 degrees is more shirt sleeve weather, so just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to turn on the wing anti-ice and the engine anti-ice because we're going to penetrate a layer of clouds here. We do have visible moisture. But if it were above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I wouldn't bother. Icing conditions are usually 0 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit is the danger zone. Next waypoint is Poobah. Boy, it reminds me of the Flintstones. Fred Flintstone was the Grand Poobah. I must say, I think our waypoint and procedure names are so wonderful compared to what you see in Europe. In Europe, you have DL125, very generic names, a lot of letter number combinations. In the US, usually the waypoint names correspond to either geographic features, landmarks, or cultural significance. And we talked about the Jedi and the Wookiee waypoints. They must have some type of Atlanta cultural reference. Sometimes you might see a reference to Coca-Cola or some of the larger industries in the area. Or sometimes the sports teams. You folks who were with me on the Seattle flight, you remember one of our waypoints was Griffey. Griffey was a big hitter for the Seattle Mariners baseball team. There you can see on the display screen, here's Mercer, the original Mercer, which we were originally supposed to fly to after Poobah. And then there's Mercer 1. Mercer 1 is the waypoint that we created all by ourselves. We added that one in. And the reason we added it in is to give us just a little bit longer straight in on the approach. I'm glad I remembered how to do that. And that's a good tutorial, because you never know when an extra waypoint will come in handy. It doesn't necessarily have to be on an approach. You can use that in a myriad of situations. We're still letting the computer determine our ideal descent. He's going to bring us to 2,700 feet, which should be the altitude that we intercept the glide slope. Because we're turning before Mercer, we should have localizer lock well before we have glide slope lock. Well, the computer has been controlling our speed from this point, but I'm going to start controlling our speed. Well, I'm going to let the computer a little longer. We're doing okay. I want to see what the computer does when we reach this decel point. We just picked up the ILS radio. You can see its identifier. We could actually listen into that identifier. Most of the time I do like to have that in the audio. Navy pilots would be able to pick out that Morse code by memory. Most of the rest of us have to look it up. Okay, what's going to happen at that decel point? That's what I'm curious about. We are decelerating, maybe not as much as I would like. Let's drop our speed to 200. Five miles to Mercer 1. This is the waypoint we created. Here comes cloud penetration. And I just added our first notch of flaps. You can see our speed bug move down to the number 1.
Flaps 1 set.
See, oh, we're getting a message. TAI on above 10 degrees Celsius. So the computer doesn't like the fact that we have engine icing and engine and wing antis above 10 degrees Celsius. It's telling us it's not really needed. Let's go to flaps 2. I'll trust the computer and turn off the engine
flaps
ice
set.
And the wing ice. Now you can see our speed is dropping down into the flaps 2 range. We do have a landing gear warning audible tone that comes on if you don't extend gear when you should. I don't know if it happens at flaps 5 or flaps 10, but it happens somewhere in this area. Let's see if it will happen at flaps 5. Flaps 5. Okay, I'm not getting the gear warning horn. Let's go ahead and go to
flaps 5 set.
Gear, extend gear. Landing gear down. That should give us a lot of drag and pull us down to our next threshold fairly quickly. Let's go to flaps 10.
Flaps 10 set.
We're still on our descent profile. I'm going to wait until we're established on the inbound heading. You can see our diamond for localizer lock is right where it needs to be. I'm sure as soon as we As soon as we push that localizer, the VOR localizer button, it will lock in right away.
Localizer Capture.
Localizer Capture. Let's go to second autopilot. So now we're on 2 autopilots, and we're waiting for glide slope intercept. I'm going to turn on the approach mode. Let's go to flaps 15. Landing checklist.
Flaps 15 set. Landing checklist. Engine start switches.
Engine start switches are continuous.
Speed brake.
Speed brake is armed.
Landing gear.
Landing gear is down. 3 green.
Flaps.
Flaps are 15 right now.
Flaps is not set for landing position.
Oh, you want us to be all the way at 40 before we do this checklist? Okay, well, we'll go to 25.
Landing checklist is not completed.
Okay, well, we'll finish it when we're at full flaps. Or we'll start it again when we're at full flaps. We don't have glide slope capture. We're still on our descent profile. We don't have to worry that we're not leveling off. Remember, we'll level off at 2,700 feet, and then by then we'll be at the Maltese Cross. Remember, the Maltese Cross is the final approach fix. It's this little guy right there. That's called the Maltese Cross at 2,700 feet, booster, and that's where we should have glide slope capture. Let's go to flaps 30.
Flaps 30 set.
Kind of nice not having a radio. Remember, everyone in the world, in air traffic control world, is looking at their radar screens watching us because we have that 7600 code in our transponder. And we're making a special bright flashing on every air traffic control radar screen for miles and miles around. Everybody knows that we are communication out. Flaps 40. Now we'll do that landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Engine start switches.
Engine start switches are to continuous.
Flaps 40 set. Speed brake.
Speed brakes are armed. Five miles to Ooster.
Landing gear.
Landing gear is down. folks, that we're landing. I don't know if we heard anything.
Lieutenant, please prepare the cab for arrival.
Glide slope capture.
Glide slope capture. Great. Now, it sure would be nice to see a runway. This is a Cat 2 airport, so Cat 2 describes as one of two. What you need for landing is a classification of the airport and a classification of the airplane. The airplane is rated at Cat 3, so it can do a landing in pretty unforgiving circumstances. The airport is rated at, or this runway is rated at Cat 2. Now, Cat 2 mostly has to do with the configuration of the real lights, the runway end identifier lights, the strobe lights. Different configurations could mean a different definition of landing categories. So Cat 2 is not the best, but it's pretty good. Hopefully when we get to Ooster in 2.7 miles, we'll hear the outer marker. She said 1,000 to level off to 2,700 feet, but if we have glide slope capture, we won't level off. We'll continue on down the glide slope. It is good to have that 2,700 feet in the altimeter, though, in case we go missed. One thing I didn't do, one thing I have a bad habit of not doing,
2,500.
is briefing the missed approach. We have the ground on the radar altimeter. One mile to our final approach fix. We're breaking out of the cloud layer, and look at that. Beautiful runways. I'm going to get a picture. Just what you want to see when you're coming out of an overcast layer. Half a mile to Ooster. Our reference speed is 120. Our engines are attempting to get us on glide slope and reference speed. Whoa, that was interesting. Little mystery cloud layer right there. I did not hear a marker beacon, but you can see that we're on the glide slope below our program descent altitude. And now, Now the computer profile doesn't matter so much. Matter of fact, it's totally irrelevant. You can block that from your brain because the glide slope is much more accurate than the IRS system. We got the blinking of the magenta diamonds, which means we're going to go into an auto land situation. Land 3. Okay, the computer will handle the rollout and the flare. The only thing I have to worry about is the... Oh, just had a TCAS traffic alert. The only thing I have to worry about are the reversers. So I am Johnny on the reversers. We're getting another TCAS. We're getting TCAS alerts. There's a runway, there's an airplane just departing the runway that we're landing on.
Taxi lights on.
Time for another picture. I'm going to get 2 pictures. I'm going to get a picture here. And I want a picture here.
Traffic. Clear of conflict.
Again, with that 7600 code, I should be having no traffic at all. Another picture.
500. 400. 300. Approaching minimums. 200.
Continue. There's the flare.
Speed brake up.
There's the rollout and the reversers.
Auto brake in use. Knots.
Off the reversers.
Yet. Great landing. You are professional.
And my first officer loved the landing. Let's get off the auto brakes. Get the brakes off. Get the... I don't want to be on the runway while I'm doing this, but my first officer is not very good about this. Let's get the APU fired up. Getting configuration alarms. Flaps up. Spoilers up. Autopilot disengaged, of course. And the good thing about being at the Delta hub is there are a whole lot of Delta parking spaces. Okay, APU is coming into its own. And transfer power onto the APU. Looks like we have a gate available over here.
Flaps upset.
Why are the flaps upset? The flaps don't have anything to be upset about. I'm really frustrated. I can't turn like I ought to be able to turn. I wish my first officer would turn off those strobes. I don't think I'm going to make this jet bridge. Yeah, I can't make the jet bridge. Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit. You should never do this in real life. See if we can't use the reversers to go backwards just a little bit. It's not what they're made for. If I had rudder authority, or what you ought to have is tiller authority, and you should have a ground tiller for maneuvering on the ground. Well, can I get over there? Really having trouble.
Stabilized.
Now, that's not going to be good enough. Again, reversers are not meant to go in reverse. I'm only doing this out of necessity.
Stabilized. Stabilized.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Turn, baby, turn. Has so little turning authority. marshaller. I don't know if I have any brakes though. Oh, didn't want to hit too much brake. Come on, a little bit more. Right there. I love it. Parking brake on. Engine off. I love it in the real world where the pilot puts the brake on, engine off, and hits the seatbelt sign off switch almost instantaneously. I think that is so classy. Oh, these lights all need to go off. Off on the strobe. Off. Most of these lights can go off. 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 Okay, seatbelts are off. Transponder. Standby. And let's do a checklist.
Shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps.
Fuel pumps can be turned off.
As needed. Probe heat.
Probe heat can be turned off.
Off. Hydraulic panel.
Hydraulic panel can be turned off. Are you going to do that, or you want me to do that? Oops.
Set.
Set. I'm actually...
Flaps.
Flaps are retracted.
Up. Parking brake.
Parking brake is set.
Engine start levers.
Engine start levers are to cut off.
Weather radar.
Weather radar is off.
Off. IRS mode selectors.
IRS mode selectors can be turned off. Can you reach way up there? Yeah, you got to stand to do it, don't you?
Off. Shutdown checklist completed.
Okay, how about the secure the aircraft checklist?
Secure checklist. Fuel pumps.
Fuel pumps.
Pumps off. Emergency exit lights.
Emergency exit lights, you can DRM those.
Off. Window heat.
Window heat. You can turn those off if you want.
Off. Packs.
Did I turn the packs off? Packs are off. You can turn packs off. Okay, packs are off.
Off. APU bleed.
APU bleed. Turn that off. We're losing duct pressure.
Lights.
Turn them all off.
Off. APU.
Go ahead and turn it off.
Off. Battery switch.
You kill that.
Off. Secure checklist completed.
Okay, let's see if the ground crew attached the jet bridge, or if that's something that we need to do. The jet bridge is not attached. Well, my passengers have been sitting here chilling because nobody has bothered to attach the jet bridge. That is unacceptable, especially at a big airport like Atlanta. Jet bridge is available. Let's toggle the parking brake and see if that helps. Oh, there goes the jet bridge. Wait a second. Did I make it go away? Was it already attached? Hope I didn't make it go away. Well, the jet bridge was attached for a short amount of time. Anyway, folks, that was a great flight, a little tutorial on the adding a waypoint, and a little tutorial about loss of radio procedures, and a great landing, and one of my better flights, so that will be posted, and hope you folks enjoyed. Have a great day.